Hi, welcome everyone to Social Psychology of Sport and Exercise. We are winding down. We only have a few more weeks to go, so keep up the good work. I really appreciate your hard work. I appreciate your drive and your willingness to work with this online journey. So what's up? This week we're looking at chapter 10, and your journal 6 is due. I know that I'm a journal off, so I took out a journal as well. Next week we'll be on chapter 11. And again, this week, we're looking at the influence of leisure experience in children and adolescents. Next week, we're going to be looking at impact of leisure experiences in adult and later life. So the kind of leisure experiences we have, and looking at the psychosocial behaviors in those areas. What's coming up? We only have 12 chapters, so we're almost done with the chapters. Almost done. You have your applied social psych of sport and exercise article. Now, I know I've talked about this before, and now it's coming down. It's due. I changed the date to May 2nd. But you're going to choose a topic from the book that you find interesting, whether it's like personality, motivation, could be attitude, participation, whatever. And you're going to write an article like one that you would read in a magazine. So it's called an applied article because you're choosing the topic for a specific newspaper, magazine, or whatever that's related to sport or physical activity of your choice. And you need to select a specific newsletter or magazine, for example, Golf Digest or Golf World or Baseball Digest. If you're having problems, I may be able to help you find one. So you need to get a hold of me early on. Um, I will not accept late work for this. So along with the article that you create, you're going to turn in just a copy of something you kind of looked at to kind of model it from. So your format is similar to whatever that actual newspaper, newsletter, magazine is. Be creative. Include graphics, diagrams, get the reader's attention with quotes. Create a catchy title. It should include about 4 or 5 pages of text. Um, I do have examples posted on Canvas. The key of your article is to present the information on your topic so that readers can understand the information and apply it to their specific sport or physical activity. So include good content. So the basics of the topic, the ideas of how you can apply the specific situation. For example, I did an applied article on doing for older adults and how to reduce falls in older adults. And so it was basically what can you do to create balance in your life. And I said, these are the materials you're going to need. These are the exercises you'll do. And so warm up, cool down. So you create that, right? The next thing that's due is you also have your journal 7, your position paper and presentations. Okay, your position paper, remember, this is what I asked you to do. I asked you to answer the question, do you agree that sports builds character in individuals and teams? And that paper, you created an outline. This is the paper format, right? So you're writing that paper and creating it. And so your paper and your presentation, you're going to create a PHYE presentation. A PHYE is 20 slides, 20 pictures, 20 seconds a slide. So your presentation, your whole presentation is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. It's very quick. It's very fun. And what you're going to do is you will post those on Canvas under 2 things. You're going to post it under position paper and presentations. So you'll have the paper and the presentation. And then you're also going to post it under discussion, because you are going to be doing the discussion with a smaller group of people. Okay, you're just creating a conversation. You're reviewing each other's and asking questions and responding to questions. And Journal 8 will be due May 13th, which is our final day. And that's actually just reflecting on the class, reflecting on what worked, some of the things that worked and didn't work. So I'm very excited to understand that from you. All right, so moving on. We're looking at the impact of leisure experience in childhood and adolescence. I love, love, love. The first vignette, their scenario, on page 324 says, Lakeisha almost lost her life in a car accident when she was 12, leaving her a paraplegic with a head injury and impaired speech. After much rehab and a period of withdrawal and social isolation, this once very popular girl found she both could renew acquaintances and establish new ones with people like herself all over the world through the internet, particularly Facebook. She finally returned to school and used this new venue to recreate her social world. Thomas had always been somewhat of an introvert, and unlike many of his classmates, was quite happy in his room, spending his time reading and listening to music when not studying. His father worried about him, but Thomas assured him he was better able to function subsequently both in school and socially if he could get lost in his own favorite music for a time. And it's interesting because thinking about what are the influences that lead us or guide us. I asked you to watch for the discussion. There's a TED Talk on changing the game in youth sports. John O'Sullivan talks about it, and it's a wonderful example of how we can help. He says there are 5 words that we should say, and they will help our students because when or help our children. But why does youth stop playing sports? Should youth receive participation awards? Think about your own youth. What occur here? And then the second area that I asked you to look at is your quiz. So does TV, video games, and the internet violence cause aggression in youth? I think it would be great to debate that, but I did this too late, so I didn't think about it. Does the influence that TV, video games, and the internet violence have on youth? Describe that and think about it. So we're going to look at, I'm not going to talk about the influence of TV and the internet because I'm having you discuss it. I really want to talk about this impact of prominent leisure activities. And I want to look at it from the standpoint of what's called the sport pyramid. Now, all right, so as we look at the sport pyramid, this pyramid contains 4 elements of human activity: play, games, sport, and work. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take it apart. And I'm going to talk about play. So we look at play, okay? Play forms the base of the pyramid since it's the physical activity of childhood and it continues throughout life in various forms. It's a free activity that involves exploration, self-expression, dreaming, and pretending. No firm rules can take place anywhere. The outcome isn't important. Johann Huizinga describes play as being free of form, separate from ordinary life, and free of purpose. Now the next one is games. Games, an aspect of play that has greater structure and are competitive. Clear participation goals that are both mental, physical, or combination of both, governed by informal and formal rules, involves competition, outcomes determined by luck, strategy, skills, or a combo of all. It results in prestige or status. Also includes some inactive games, which are like board games or video games, and active games, which are, some of your kickball, football, things like that. Now, there's some new games out there, which is Dale Lefevre created and popularized new games, which focuses on replacing cooperation or competition with cooperation, participation, creativity, and personal experience. It's used around the world. The next aspect is sport. Sport is a specialized or of higher order of play, or as games with certain specific characteristics that set them apart. Some characteristics would be sport has to include physical components. So there has to be some sort of physical activity in school or skill. There has to be competition, outcome important and not predetermined. It's institutionalized, so it's governed by an outside group or an institution that enforces, oversees, conducts results. And it uses specialized facilities, meaning that the definition of sport in a given society reflects the cultural beliefs and attitudes that the society has towards a variety of concerns, even warfare, gender, identity, survival, and the honoring of any gods, which is really interesting. Work is the final one. Work is purposeful activity, and that includes physical or mental effort or both in order to perform a task, overcome an obstacle, or achieve a desired outcome. Work is the physical or mental effort needed to perform a task. It's often connected to earning a living or payment. Professional athletes work when they are getting paid to play a sport. High performance athletes may experience sport as work, even if they're not getting paid. So as you see, if you look at this foundationally, everything starts with play. You think about as you were growing up and the aspect of play. Play had no rules. We used to have what was called a chicken coop, and we'd go play games there. This is just an example of as we move up, and you can see that as you move up, sport. You think about college athletes; they're paid in terms of tuition and waivers, so they come very close to being work. Now, one area that I thought was really interesting is what's called the long-term development framework on how do we keep people active. Okay, science research and decades of experience all point to the same thing. Kids and adults will get active, stay active, and even reach their greatest heights of sport achievement if they do the right things at the right time. So that's kind of the reasoning behind these stages, the outline of the late specialization in sports, which I just find interesting. So it's critical to try an activity, but it's also critical that the participant experience fun in it. So the active start, fundamentals, and learn to train stages develop physical literacy before puberty. So children have the basic skills to be active for life. Physical literacy then provides a foundation for those who choose to pursue elite training in one sport or activity after age 12. Think about it. When did you start participating in your sport? Okay, if you participate in a sport, when did you start really being serious about this? Then there's the train to train, train to compete, and train to win stages, which are more, someone is becoming more elite, really focused on to be at the highest level, maximizing physical, mental, emotional development. And then there's what's called active for life, which again, we'll talk more about that next week. But this is lifelong commitment or participation in competitive or recreational sports. There are people that play, baseball, softball into their later years. So again, we'll talk more about that next week. Anyway, I thought that would be interesting to just kind of show you how do we start these things. So we really start to make fun part of daily life. Okay. Fitness and movement skills as development. They also help us motor skills wise develop. So it's the active start stage, which you'll find right here, the active start. The fundamental stage right here, where again, it's males 6 to 9, females 6 to 8. You can see the things that you do. There's no periodization, but well-structured programs, whatever it is. Then the learn to train, males 9 to 12, females 8 to 11. Again, you're introducing ancillary capabilities. So it's kind of neat. So what's the current status on youth sports? We see that about half of U.S. children participate in youth sports. Team participation peaks at age 11. More than 70% of U.S. kids drop out of sports before high school. High school youth high school youth not on the school team drop out of athletics unless they can access non-privatized recreational leagues. And this is very difficult because again, think about when you were participating in a sport or learning how to participate in a sport. And did you complete what you wanted to complete? Or did you stop because of a certain reason? Here's why. Why do children participate in sports? Children have different reasons than adults for participating. They want to have fun. They want to improve their skills, get exercise, be with, make new friends, and they want to start competing. Boys and girls have similar motives for involvement in these, but they may vary in importance. Children have a different reason than adults in participating in sports. So we know that participation peaks between 10 and 13 years of age average. For every 10 children who begin a sports season, 3 or 4 quit before the start of a season. Now, why is that? I think we should think about that. Why is it that for every 10 children who begin a sport, 3 or 4 quit? That means there's only 7 left, 6 or 7. There's reasons they quit. Major reason is they have other things they have to do. There's some negative reasons. They're not as good as they want to be. They're bored. They didn't like the pressure. They're not as excited. They're not able to be on the same team with their friends, and they're not enough team spirit. For females versus males, lack of teamwork and lack of team affiliation issues, as well as concerns about lack of ability. So what's important is we look down lower here, you can see at the bottom of this chart, the importance of the psychological motives for participation and withdrawal. So we have perceived competence. Children with low perceptions of their athletic abilities drop out or do not participate in a sport, whereas children with high perceptions of their competence, they're going to participate. They're going to for sure do it. Sport-specific dropouts withdraw from a particular program, but they may actually enter another sport. These dropouts may withdraw altogether from participation, or there's a special reason, could be an increased pressure to overemphasis on winning, stress of high performance, participation expenses, risk of injury, participation in alternative sports, lack of training. So think about it, So perceived competence. I don't know that I can do well. There's a goal orientation. Do they have the right goals set in place? And then there's stress response. Can they respond to stress positively, or is it just that easier to move on? Now, there's gender differences. Again, boys enter sports sooner than girls do. Girls drop out sooner than boys do. And we see that girls are not, they don't get as excited. Things like that. About 80% of urban girls and 64% of rural girls have no physical education in the 11th and 12th grades. And in the suburbs, it's less. Do you think sports matters? More than 80% of executive business women participated in organized sport in middle and high school. And girls of color have a lower participation rate than Caucasian girls. But I think that's important as you look at your position paper. Okay? Do sports build character for myself, for the team? Okay? If we don't participate in a sport, we're going to miss out on being the best we can be. I believe. I truly believe that. And I think we see here, finally, is that there's burnout in sport. Again, excessive stress. And we did talk about these things, the need to win, anxiety about participation, low self-esteem. Maybe they burn out because they specialized in their sport too early. Maybe they had poorly trained coaches, and maybe the parents had unrealistic expectations. These are reasons that people don't participate in sport. Now, I really like this chapter because I think as you think about our experiences in our youth and what allows us to grow into the high performing adults that we are, we need to understand the impact that play has, and that it's clear that socialization and personal and social development don't rely exclusively on the influence of family and other adult agents, but the freedom that we have, we will use to play games, sports, and other activities helps us to infuse our socialization. And I think technology is a blessing and a curse. It can facilitate commitment into our personal development, but we need to think about how much do we spend on those things. So I hope you got a good experience, and I hope that as you're moving ahead, you're considering your own influences from your childhood and young adults. Have a wonderful week.